In this video, I'm going to introduce you to a tool called Visual Understanding Environment, or VUE for short. This is a tool that was created by Tufts University and distributed for free on their website. You can get it at vue.tufts.edu, and once you have to create a user account to sign in and download it, but that's a free process to do. You can download it here once you're logged in. You can see I am recording this video in November 2014, and the latest release of this software was May 23rd of last year. So it's not actively developed, and new releases are few and far between, but nevertheless, I still use this in my day-to-day for lots of different things that I'll show you. You can see from these images here that the kind of core use case or workflow here that they're really supporting is the creation of these flowcharts, diagrams, mind maps, that sort of stuff. Same sort of thing that you could create in, there are other web tools that you could use that do something very, very similar, but I find myself always coming back to VUE for its very simple and easy to use interface. So I'll show you how to get started here. When you open up VUE on either the Windows or Mac version, I'm using Windows here, you get presented with an empty map here that you can fill with content in a bunch of different ways. The two core pieces of content that you create in VUE are nodes, so just containers with labels essentially, and connections between those nodes. And you can create them using the menu bar up here, which I'll show you first. If you hit this button to create switch to the node tool, you'll see that your cursor changes to crosshairs, and then wherever you click on the map, you'll create a new node, and you can start typing to change the label for this. So I'm going to say, I'll call this one View, and then click to create a new node, and we'll call this one Features. And you can go building out lots and lots of nodes this way pretty quickly. I still find myself going back to the hotkeys. They're a much faster way to create these nodes very quickly. You can see that you can also reposition them anywhere and resize them. The hotkeys, however, I highly suggest looking at. You can open up the full list of keyboard shortcuts in the help menu there. And as you can see, there are lots of keyboard shortcuts. And I'll show you some of the most useful ones here. So you can, like I said, you can create a new node by clicking here to switch your tool, or you can just hit Control-N to create a new node quickly that way, and to start typing right away. So I've got a new node, I've got View and Features. Let's add a couple of features here. So one feature might be diagramming. I'll hit Control-N to create a new node and say we've got brainstorming. Hit another one and say, we'll say wireframing and mind mapping. So I guess these are actually more of uses than features. So I've got all these nodes now, and I want to create some relationships. So one way you can do that is select a node by clicking it, and then I'm going to hold Control, or hold Alt rather, on the keyboard, and then click and drag from this node to my node here. So I'm saying now that View has some uses, and I want to change the label here to has. You can also just delete this if you want to leave it blank. To kind of not signify exactly what this connection is, but you can always double click a link to bring it back and say, and specify that connection. So I'm going to say View has some uses, and then I could also do the same thing. I could click, drag, hold Alt, and then click, drag to create connections this way between all of these nodes. Oops, it's going to resize it, and do it this way one at a time. Or what I want to do in this case instead is say that all of these things are children of this node here. So I'm just going to click, drag this, and then release it when you see the color change to green. And what that'll do is nest all of these nodes inside this one and say that uses is a parent of these nodes. The cool thing that you can do with this, say you're taking notes or something and working with a group of people to create an ordered list. So you've got all these items in here, and now you want to say, okay, which one's the most important? I'm going to say that I can just select one of these and use the arrow keys to reorder this list. So mind mapping is important, and then we'll say diagramming, and maybe brainstorming, and wireframing is sort of the least important in this hypothetical list. I'd say that these are all equally represented in this software, but that's just me. So anyway, we've got our two sort of big nodes here in one relationship, and now let's say we want to kind of format these in a better way to signify this a little more clearly. If you hold Control and then press the 1 key, you'll open up what's called the formatting palette. That you can see you've got options for both nodes and these links in terms of styling and also text. So let me start first with this parent, this title node here, and change the font size. Now I want to change the stroke on this node to a dotted line. We'll make it a big dotted line. And let's change the color to purple here. And I don't want color on this connection node here. So I'm going to change the line color to black. And I don't really want arrows in this case. There are plenty of uses for that, obviously, if you're doing flow charts or showing kind of bidirectional relationship. But here I just want just a single line. You can also make it a curved line with one control point like this. This is useful for kind of making these connections and nudging the line kind of out of the way of other nodes if you're building really complex diagrams. You can also add 2 sort of corner control points like this. So that's it for getting content out on the canvas quickly. There's other ways that you can get lots of content out and position it very quickly using other hotkeys. So let me just hide the formatting palette here with Control 1 to hide it. And I'm just going to create a bunch of nodes quickly, just holding Control and clicking N, hitting N on the keyboard a bunch. So I've got a bunch of nodes out here on the canvas. And say I want to create a column. You can hold the Alt key and then use either of the arrow keys to create a column like that. Hit Control Z to undo that, and I'm going to hit Alt and then hit the left arrow key. So you can do that to create a column, or you can use Alt and number keys as well. So Alt 1 will create a row of all of your nodes. Alt 2 creates a column. Then Alt 3 creates sort of a uniform grid that you can reposition this way just by click dragging on these corner points here. Alt 4 creates a circle, and then 5 and 6 sort of create random clusters. That's Alt 5 and Alt 6. And you can toggle back and forth between all these. So say you want a cluster and then you want a grid. You can play with how that looks and feels. Another very handy tool is copying and pasting styles. So let me open up the formatting palette again, and I'm going to change the color of this node here to orange. And I'm going to change the text to Arial narrow, and I'm going to change the font size so to make it a little bit bigger. And say I want to quickly copy and paste, but just the style. I want to keep the content of this node, so I'm going to rename this one New Content. And I only want to change it to look like this one. Well, you can hold Control Shift and C to copy the style, and then select all the nodes you want. I'm going to do this one, and I'm Control clicking nodes here to select multiple. And then I'm going to hit Control Shift V to paste just the style. So you can see that kind of made things overlap, but now I can just kind of click drag to reposition them off of one another. But a very handy way of copying the style, Control Shift C and Control Shift V to replace the style without changing the content of the node itself. So that's sort of the core workflow for getting content out, nodes and connections very quickly. Another thing that I use this tool for a lot is wireframing and doing storyboards for different types of applications. Even though the options that you have are extremely limited to shapes, you just get this one palette of simple shapes here, and colors and connections. You can actually create a surprising amount of things. And what I find is that for thinking of workflow, how a user gets from point A to point B in an application, and styling very, not thinking about style rather, but thinking about very simple functionality of a piece of software, that Vue is very kind of restrictive in a good way of removing a lot of the excess tools and features, and just getting you to think about how a user goes from point A to point B. So here are some things that you can create. You can create these little widgets for different types of data visualizations, or in this case, I've kind of assembled them into a dashboard that you can create just by kind of dragging and positioning things around. This is another one based on Twitter's popular Bootstrap template, which is a set of web components for creating user interface elements quickly. So you can see you can kind of replicate that style very quickly just with nodes and connections. So that's an overview again of visual understanding environment, of free tools that you can get at vue.tufts.edu.